Hey guys, welcome back to the second part of this video where we are creating a WordPress plugin using React.js. So into the last episode, what we have been doing, we are just creating a form which is coming from our React.js file, and now it's time to make some more dynamicity with this plugin, and we are going to use REST API of WordPress. Before we are doing further in this file, let's create some of our REST API custom endpoints so that we can handle data from here into the WordPress. So in order to do that, let's go back to our classes folder and create another file, and let's name it class create settings route.php. Like so. And let's open our PHP tag and let's create a class and name it WP React. Let's do something like settings REST route. Alright, and let's add some comment here. This file will create custom REST API endpoints. Okay, now let's create a construct function. Like so, and here we will be calling a hook which is REST API init. Of course, we need to put it into a quotation mark, and then we are going to trigger this function with some of our custom functions. So let's create that. We'll be using create REST routes. Okay, now let's create the REST route endpoint. So let's say like public function create REST routes. Alright, now here what we need actually two types of HTTP request. One is for GET and one is for POST. So let's start doing that. So let's begin with our GET API route. So let's do like register REST route like this, and it will accept some options. Like the first one, we need to use a namespace. So for this, let's use like WPRK and v1. So this is the WPRK version 1. And second thing we need is to add the endpoint. So let's do like settings, and then what we need to pass an array in where we need to say the methods, and the method will be get, and the next thing will be callback. And for this we are going to use one of our custom function. Let's say get settings, and the next thing is permission callback, which is actually will allow us to know the permission, that whether we have a permission to see this information through this REST API endpoint. So this we will also create later. Let's say get settings permission like this. And the second thing will be a post API request URL. So for this we can copy the same thing because the URL will be same, but the method would be post, and we can say like save settings, and we can say save settings permission. So we do not have these methods yet, so let's create those. So let's create our get settings function first. So let's say public function get settings. Alright, so for now let's create a dummy response and let's test this with our let's say Postman. We can use the Postman. So let's do a dummy response. Let's create an array and let's mimic the scenario that we're gonna have. So first name, let's say John, and last name, let's say Doe, and the email, let's say john@gmail.com. and finally we're gonna need to return this response. So let's do like return rest ensure response, and inside that we are gonna send the response variable. Alright, now the next thing is to create that permission. So because we need that, otherwise it will throw an error because we have been defined this here. So let's do like public function and let's say let's put it like this. Alright, so because it's a get request and we can, for now let's return just true. So whenever someone wants the permission we can send it as true. And before start our testing, let's quickly create these two methods like save settings and save settings permission, because otherwise it will throw error. So public function save settings, and let's create public function settings permission for now. Alright, okay, so I have already opened the Postman. Postman is a very good software to test this kind of a scenario, because you can in the browser you can just only test the get request, but you cannot test the post or delete or patch request. So this kind of, for this kind of a thing, this Postman is very good. So let's go back to our backend and grab this portion and then open one. So we are going to have a get request, then we can say wp json, and after that we need to pass our endpoint. So our endpoint is wp-rk v1, then the settings. So let's go back and wp-rk, then v1, then settings. Alright, so right now we do not need to worry about anything, any authentication or anything. So now if we click on send, then it should give us or return us those things. Alright, so I think something is wrong here, so let's check that out. Alright, so I found the reason. This is a funny one. We have created our class but we never called our class, and even we haven't initialized, so how it can give us the return? So let's do that quickly. We can initialize this class here like this, and it will automatically call this construct function. But now we need to add this class in our WP React kickoff. So let's duplicate this and we can change from here. So class, and then we need to say, I think, create settings routes, right? Yeah, create settings routes. So create settings routes like so. Alright, so now if we go back and click on send, as you can see our response is coming as expected. First name John, last name Doe, and the email is john@gmail.com. So with this we can ensure that our REST API endpoint is working. Alright, now this will not be the actual scenario. The actual scenario will be something like that. We are gonna use, or we are gonna save this value into the option table of WordPress. So how we can do that? Let's assign like first name and from there we will be getting those values, right? So for like first name, we can get the value like get option, right? And we can define a key. So for now, not for now, let's say the key is like wprk settings and then first name. So this will be our key name, in where when we save the value will be saved through this key, and we can access with get option, although this key is not created yet, but we will be creating this thing. So let's duplicate, and let's say last name, and say let's say email, right? So we can say settings last name and obviously the email. Alright, then what we can do, we can just pass these values here, like first name and last name and the email, of course. So in that way we can grab those values and we can send this to the endpoint, where we can find into the with the Postman, or when we use into our settings page, we can grab this value from these endpoints. Alright, now the next thing is to actually work with the save settings, which is the most important thing for us. So let's finish up by creating our REST API. So let's go into the save settings. Now here we can have one parameter, which is the request, by which we can access those values that will be coming from the REST API, from the React form, on React form submission. So let's take a variable like first name equal to, we can say request, alright, and then we can say like first name. So this first name, this key should be matched up with a value that is sending from the React. So let's assume we're gonna use first name as a key, and before that let's sanitize it. So sanitize text field, like so. It is always good to sanitize the input that is coming from the user. Never trust a user. So let's duplicate those, and let's say last name and email, like so. Alright, so let's change those things as well. Okay, so we are grabbing the value from the form, which we will create into the in some next actions. Now the next thing is to update the value. So how we can do that? We can use update option, right? And for this we need to have the key name. So we are assuming that this is our key name, so we can use this for the first name. So we can say first name here. So we are updating it, and let's duplicate it, and let's do the same for last name and email. Okay, so let's do the change of last name here and the email. Alright, so that means we are already updating the value. So let's, to ensure that, let's just return REST ensure response like this, and let's just put success. So that will be the meaning that our savings has been successfully done. So, or we can just create an array and sending the value that has been saved. So for now let's do something like that. Alright, now for the save settings, similar thing, let's return the true. So whatever it is, it's not safe right now, but for the sake of this tutorial to go ahead, let's do like this. At the end of the tutorial we are gonna see how we can restrict our user from this place and to save our things not to submit from the outside, because it's not safe if someone gets this endpoint and he can submit without any permission, that is not a good thing for us, because anybody can change our value then. So we will be restrict them from here, but for now let's test these things. So as far as what we can say, that our value is saving from here. Now we can test it with the Postman also. So let's go back here and let's copy this, and it's a post request. Now we need to send some body. Let's add a form data. Let's say first name, let's say Jane, last name Doe, and email can be jane@gmail.com. Now with the Postman we have the ability to send a post request, and remember what I have said, because we do not have any permission. So right now with the Postman we will be able, or we should be able to send the value into the WordPress, and we can save the value into the database as well. So let's check that out. So before that, let's check our script first. So this is the first name, last name, and email we are getting with this request variable, and then we are updating our values, and after that we are sending the success message. So if we get the success message, then we can say that yes, our operation was successful. Let's click on send. So as you can see, this message is coming. That means our code is working as we expected. Now to verify that these updated values has been added, so if we go here, so these were the static values that was coming from the GET request. Now if we click on send, this value should be coming from the database, and the value should be Jane Doe and jane@gmail.com. So let's try that, and sure enough, as you can see, we are seeing that Jane Doe and jane@gmail.com, so which is obvious and as responding with our code. So for now we are done with creating these endpoints. Now let's move on into our settings.js, and where we need to do some more things. So this is a plain form, we are not doing anything yet. So let's define some states. So let's do like const for the first name, let's say first name, and then set first name. Alright, so we can use state hook. Initially its value will be blank. Let's copy or duplicate those things, and this will be set last name, or like this camel case everywhere. So this will be last name, and then the email, and you can say set email. Alright, so these are the states we're gonna need. Now the next thing we need is the URL by which we can send our API request through Ajax. So let's use template literal for this kind of a thing. Template literal is very handy. So we can say app localizer, not like this. Now how I am getting this app localizer, if you can remember, in our first episode into the WP React kickoff, we have localized this variable and we have named it as app localizer. So to access this JSON URL, we can say app localizer.api URL. So let's do that. Not this one. Let's copy this .api URL. Yes. And then we need to define our endpoints like that WPRK, then v1, then settings. Alright, so this is the URL variable we are gonna use. Now in this form, let's collapse it. We need to add something which is called the on submit event. So let's do that, by which we will be able to listen that the changes or submission of that form. So what we can do, we can graph the event, and let's add a function here. Let's say handle submit, and we're gonna pass that event. Alright, so and now for the fields we need to do something. So here the value will be the state value, first name, and here on change we are going to add on change event. So let's do like with the event we're gonna set the value. So let's say, let's do like this, set first name, and the first name will be e.target.value. So what we are doing on changing of this field, we are setting the set first name with the set first name method, and we are grabbing that very field's value and send it to the state. So that's this way we can update our state. Alright, so let's do the same for the other fields as well. So let's just copy these. Alright, and then let's put it here and we can replace accordingly. So we can place it here, and for the first name we can say last name, and here also we should say the last name. Let's collab this like this. Alright, so set last name, and for the email we can do the same. So here we can say email, and here we can say set email. Okay, so our value has been setted. Now the next thing is to create that handle submit method. So let's create that real quick. So you can say const handle submit. Okay, const handle submit, that will having an event. Now for the first thing we need to do prevent default the form default behavior, and then what we can do, we can say axios dot post, and for that first we need to send the URL, and second thing is the values that we are gonna send. So for that first name will be not this one, will be first name. Alright, I think we are not, are we saving the same value here? Yeah, okay, so we can, for this we can say first name. Okay, and then for the last name we can say last name, and for the email we can say email. Now for, because we are using the modern JavaScript, we can actually do things like that, this one. If the colon either sides of the name is same, we can do something like that, which is the new version of JavaScript that is supporting, but you can keep in a old fashion as well if you are confused with your variable names on what is doing what. Okay, and then when the value is gone with the response we can do something. So let's do something like, for now let's say we're just consoling out something. So you can say console.log, let's say value are submitted like this. Alright, now so far what we have done, we have just created our handle submit method by which we are gonna send the post request through this Axios library object, and here we are sending our values, and when the values is going, then when we get the response we are just consoling this submitted. Or here what we can do, we can also just logging out the response for now. Alright, so let's test this out with our backend, and hopefully there is no error, so it is running as expected. Now let's go back and let's go into our WP React kickoff, and let's inspect it to check it out, is there any error or not. Alright, so these are the other things. We do not have any error. Alright, so now let's start. Let's say John again, Doe and j@gmail.com. Alright, so if we hit submit, the value should be saved and the response should come. So if we click on save, so as you can see, data is called success, status is 200, status text is okay. So that just meaning that our script is run, because this success message is not a built-in message. It is coming from our code. If you can remember from our REST API, for the post, if we are successful with this code, then this success message should return, and that is returning into our console. To check that out, if we go to the Postman again and hit the hit the get request again, then instead of Jane Doe, we should get the John Doe. That is because that is submitted from our form. So let's hit on send. As you can see, the updated value is coming here, but it is not enough, because if we hit the refresh, the value will not be shown into our form, because we do not have done anything regarding showing our value into this form again. So let's go back, and this time we are gonna use another very useful thing of React, and that is use effect hook. So with this we can send or trigger a callback function, and then we're gonna use Axios again. Then we can use the get method of it, use that URL, and then obviously we are gonna have the value of returning data, so that will be a response. And in here what we will do, we will just update the value of these things. So we can say set first name, and the set first name value would be res.data.firstname, like so. And let's duplicate other things, not this one, sorry about it. Okay, last name and then the email. Alright, and let's keep this blank, so it will be not affecting. Okay, so these are the values. Okay, these are not the values, we need to update this one also. Set email. Okay, so what we are doing here, by using this use effect hook, we are sending this Ajax request, Ajax get request, and grabbing those values, and whenever we grabbing those values through this REST object, we are updating our states, so that because we have used these values like into this first name field, we have using our values as the first name, which is the state value. So whenever we're updating this, it's gonna get the value from here. So now if we save the value, and even if we hit the refresh, our value should be showing. So let's try that again. Let's just hit refresh. Okay, so as you can see, we are already seeing the values. Now if we just change it from John to let's say Smith, and also change Smith, like so, and if we hit save, then the value is saved, but there is as you can see into the console at the very last, the response is successful. So if we hit the refresh again to check it out, as you can see, the updated value is showing. Now to make it a little bit proactive to the eye of the user, let's say when we click on save, this value of this button should say like something's save settings, and then when it gets saved, then it comes back to its older form, so that user can understand that something is going on and something has happened. But because otherwise if we click on submit, nothing is happening unless you are going to the console and seeing something, right? So for the user help, let's do something here. Let's define another constant, and let's add a state again. So let's say it's a loader, and then set loader, not like this obviously, and let's use state, and beginning, let's say its value is save settings. Okay, now let's go back into our button, and in place of this, let's say loader. So now if we just go back and hit a refresh, then our value should be save settings, that is coming from the state. Now when we click, something should happen. So let's say when we submit the form, right in this place we can set like set loader, and we can say something like saving, right? And when it's done saving, or the data is stored, rather than sending it in the console, we can set again the set loader, and we can come back to the save settings again. I know it's a static way, but it's a, I'm giving an idea that what you can do here. You can do many better ways, but this is just a idea to give to you. So now if we go back and again try it, and let's say Smith, I don't know, let's say Steve Smith, okay, and let's say here Steve Smith, and now if we click on save settings, so look what is happening, saving, and when it gets saved, then it is coming back into its real estate. So this way user can see that something is happening and something is happened, or something is finishing in terms of happening something, right? So as you can see, after refreshing the page, our values is coming back again. Now there is one important thing that has been left off. Let me show the problem first. Now with the Postman, I am not a user, or I do not know what is happening, because this place is a very inside place of a WordPress, which is a admin area. So any value from here should not be submitted outside from the outside, or even it should not seen from the outside if you do not give any permission. So with the Postman, with the get request, as you can see, we can see the things happening, right? So if you allow something like this, it's okay, but for the post it shouldn't be allowed, right? So let's say you have been saving these values, which is important to you, but from the Postman, right? So this is the Postman, and let's say with the same value, if I hit submit, look what happens. So it gives me success, right? Now if I hit refresh here, see what is happening. So value is changed from outside, so it should not be happen, right? Now how we can restrict it? Okay, so there is a very good thing to do for us. Let's go back into our code editor. If you can remember, we have set a nonce into this script, right, which is the wp create nonce, and we need to use this wp_rest in this way, right? Otherwise it will not work. So that means we have a thing that can access by wp localizer.nonce. Now what actually we need to do, we need to verify this nonce. How we can do that? We can do that when we sending the post request, right? So when we sending the post request, we can send a header. So this is the headers, and here we need to say content type, and the content type is application JSON, and here this is the important thing that exactly you need to do like this. So WordPress has a header which is called xwp nonce. So with this you need to send our nonce. So what is our nonce? That is not application, app localizer dot nonce that we have been created with our localizing variable. So when we send this, WordPress has WP XWP nonce regarding our forms, so it will be matching with that WP nonce, and if it is finding that the value is matching, and then only it will allow us to save something into the database through the post request. Now that's not enough. We need to go to our router, and we need to do something here as well. So what we can do, we will not send automatically return true. We will send return if current user can, and we gonna add some capability. Let's say publish post. So admin obviously can publish posts, so that will return true. So this function will always return true if it has the access. So now what we are doing by this WP nonce checking, when it comes to this function, we are checking that if this user, this current user who is requesting, has the permission of current user can publish posts. If so, then he will be allowed you to save the post into the database, otherwise it will halt your request. So now let's try with the Postman again. Let's do something like Robiz, and this time let's try it. So if we click on send, as you can see, the response is different now. So the response is coming rest forbidden, sorry, you are not allowed to do that. That means it is surely restricting me from submitting the value. So if we go back and hit a refresh, we should see the same value because this value hasn't been changed from the outside. Alright, but if we try from inside, let's say at gmail.com, and now if we save, this should allow us because I have the permission of publish post. So if we click on save settings, so it is saving successfully, and if I hit refresh, the value should be updated. As you can see, the value is updated. So that's it for this video. I hope you have learned something from here, and if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and let me know through your comments that whether this type of tutorials are helpful or not. Then it will be inspiring for me to create some more things. And till then, see you in the next tutorials.